This is the Dallas Morning News.
This episode is from an independent podcast hosted by the Dallas Morning News opinion team.
This episode is brought to you in partnership by Clay Cooley Automotive, family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years. Clay, thank you for all you're doing to make intersections possible.
We've got Lucy Billingsley, a woman who has done an enormous success in the real estate development, traditionally known as a man's business. But it's fascinating to not only think of where she had come from, daughter of Trammell Crow, an icon in the real estate industry, but she went off on her own. She wasn't going to be part of that. She wanted to prove herself.
She's an entrepreneur, UT Texas, and then came back and she decided, I'm going to jump into a bunch of different things. So she had a travel business. She was at the Market Center. Now she's got Billingsley Company, all with her husband and her children as well. She's an icon, to your point, and she's really made massive strides from a Metroplex perspective. These master plan communities and all the things she's done. It's been an incredible career.
Enjoyed listening to how she thinks about some of those master plan communities and how they do it different than a lot of other folks and how it's evolved over time.
Yeah. We also touch on the future of Dallas, future of the Arts District, and what downtown can be, and where Dallas and the Metroplex grows and goes in the future. Yeah. It's a fun listen. Tune in. Welcome to Intersections, where we take a multi-generational look at the critical issues facing America. Tom, introduce our guest.
Good conversation coming. Lucy Billingsley. Lucy comes from a real estate family, a legend, but she's made it on her own and really established herself as one of the leading developers in North Texas with some pretty unusual projects that we're going to talk about, and as becoming a leader in our community too, both from a community standpoint, but also in terms of philanthropic efforts.
Well, one hopes and one tries, but let's keep going.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Well, let's start with the family. And at some point, I want to talk about your dad, but I'd rather start with your mother to be truthful with you. Talk about your mom. She was really a force in the family, but also a force in the community.
Well, she was always just a beautiful, gracious lady.
Yep.
And
good description.
Mom had 4 sons and then finally a little girl. And I turned out to be the athlete in the family. I mean, things just did not work out the way she wanted them to be. But anyway, she was, gracious and kind, and all the events and parties, she'd be standing next to Dad. Trammell, here's so-and-so, nudging him along to remember all of the contacts. And she had great judgment on his partners and associates. So they were a wonderful team.
Did he look to her a lot from a business standpoint, just kind of a sounding board, judgments?
No, I think she spoke up and really about people, not about the aspects of business.
What made her a good judge of people?
I don't have a good answer for that, but I think it was innate. And she was a good person and had good instincts and qualities herself. So I think she could recognize that in others and recognize people who might be taking advantage of Dad when, he just wants to move on and do the next thing, and she sees the situation with a little more clarity.
Yeah, but a good partnership.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the partnership with you and Henry a little bit later too. So what was it? You're growing up in a family with a dad as a real estate legend, not only locally, but nationally too. So what was that like? And then with the brothers, and several of them went into real estate too.
Yeah.
What was real estate destined to be for Lucy?
I was aware of real estate because, I don't know, a few years ago, I stumbled across a first grade thing. I want to be a real estate person, but I didn't know what it was, of course. And I didn't really have awareness until the high school years. And that's when you're starting to say, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And I clearly realized in high school that I wanted to follow my father's path, not my mother's. And the expectation, of course, is that you'd grow up to be like your mother. I love my mother, but I just didn't want that life.
Do you have a first core memory from being on a real estate project or something you saw or did?
Not really. I'd like to make some profound statement, but my memories are much more about Dad and his persona than the projects.
Interesting.
You said you were both inspired and infected by your dad and kind of the real estate aura around that. What did you mean? Inspired and infected. Kind of two interesting words coming together.
I hold him in great esteem. And I hold his integrity. The thing that people say most about him is that he loved people and they loved him and they respected him. So you've got this person that has all of that value. And I felt deeply connected. So when we were together, we could finish each other's sentences, right? So I'm not my father, but I'm deeply connected and enriched by him.
So what lessons did you learn? What lessons through all these years did you take from the time with him, being close to him, seeing him in real estate, working with him in real estate, to the successes that you've had since then?
Well, they're mostly principles of life, right? I mean, one thing is never violate your own integrity. In business, you could get tempted. Yeah. There's a little faster way, a little more profitable option. So don't violate your own integrity. And then another one, he would always say, it's all up to you. Well, that's emancipating, and it's got great responsibility. And I love the combination of those things. So whatever comes at you in life, it's up to you. And so and he also always showed great belief and trust. And when you're given that as a child, then that gives you a strength.
You mentioned first grade real estate person. Did you ever think about throughout the years going through school and then to University of Texas, Austin, did you ever think about doing anything else?
Well, when I was in elementary school, I loved acting. And I'd go to the Dallas Theater Center and be in the Christmas shows and do all of that. But Dad picked me up in fourth grade from the Christmas party where a guy was smoking a cigarette with flip-flops and cut-off pants at the door, and I was not in the theater anymore. So
that was the end of that career.
That was it. So no, after that, I just saw that he had a platform and growth, and I know it's such an exciting life. So I was really drawn to that.
Yep. And UT Austin, what did you gain out of that? You look back on that. What was?
Well, I went to Hockanay, so private girls' school the whole way through, and I was tempted to go to a co-ed, small, beautiful college, and just said no. I need to be in the public arena. I need to be competing with guys. And the first semester I took a course in economics, and I said, finally, there's something I'm interested in. Because liberal arts is, not my bailiwick. So then I just went straight on to business.
You've mentioned a couple times kind of this competition from a female-male perspective.
Yeah.
Where did all that just start? I think probably during that time, most girls were kind of raised to be like their mother, but you didn't want that. Where did all that begin?
Well, I started with 4 older brothers. I mean, even, Harlan still remembers, rightly so, how we would be racing home from somebody's house. He's 4 years older than me. I would clearly be losing, and I'd stop in the middle of the street and say I wasn't racing. So we both remember that very honestly. But I'm competitive by nature.
Yeah. Now, when you're in school, you did an internship, but it was with another real estate firm. Not with your dad's.
Well, right. First off, in UT, I just wanted to go to work. I graduated one semester early. I just wanted to get out there. So I started working at Citibank, the Austin Citibank, First City, I guess, and the MasterCard department. Then Henry S. Miller, I went to work with them in brokerage. And I learned a ton there. First, I was doing research, but then I finally started doing a couple of deals. And the first transaction I did was a Whataburger site. And I took the contract to one party. He sent it to the other party, and they struck the broker commission. So I got nothing for the deal.
Oh, my gosh.
And I thought, that's just a gift for me for a lifetime ahead. I didn't feel that way that time. But in hindsight, respect the brokers.
Yep. Absolutely. But then you did come back to your dad's firm, Houston Retail.
Yeah.
Why Houston and why retail, especially given that
My
you've grown
husband
up
at the
here?
time was working with Trammell Crow Industrial in the public warehousing, and that was in Houston. So we moved there.
Okay.
And so then I hit the streets into retail brokerage and just doing cold calls and cold calls and cold calls. And I was largely pregnant. So I think anyone who saw me coming in had, was at least polite to me. And so that was just, a great experience.
What you learned in the early days of that Houston market? What were kind of some of any pivotal moments that you saw?
Well, no, really I was there almost about a year, so not a super long time. And I really just learned how hard it is to get a clientele going and pulling deals together. So I did cold calls more than anything else. So I learned rejection. Take rejection.
Important lesson. What was the thought process, though, to come back to your dad's firm? Was that a difficult decision? Did you kind of think about kind of all the implications of that as opposed to continuing off with other firms, or?
No. So when I left Houston, I got divorced and came back to Dallas and was just all in. Let's jump into the company. So Dad put me at the market center and put me in the accounting department.
So kind of change of firms, change of life at that point.
Yeah.
It was going
the
back
whole thing. And accounting departments and I are not a perfect fit. So I was there for about 5 months and then told Dad, I really love you. I love this, but I'm going to need to move on.
Do something else.
One way or another. Yeah. And so then I went into leasing at the Dallas Apparel Mart and then moved on through the different positions at the Market Center.
Talk about the Market Center. A fascinating development.
Yeah.
7 million square feet, kind of wholesale oriented, et cetera. Yeah. But you don't see many developments like that anyplace. And then all of a sudden you're thrust into being CEO of it.
Well, it's a great business. It's a real estate business on paper, but in reality, it's event-based. It's industry and event-based, wholesale to retail. And we had gift, furniture, carpets, then apparel, soft goods, jewelry. And then when I was there, we added a whole lighting division. Then we added specialty foods and other categories, Western wear. And so you're deeply engaged with people whose livelihood is on the line by how good a job we do, how many retailers we bring to the business. And that was a huge period of growth for me. And I came through leasing, then to running the Apparel Mart, then to running the development at large. And then also was involved in the Dallas, Houston, and Boston design centers. And we went and launched at Boston. Boston was the design center I launched. Houston was already existing, and we expanded it some.
So what has happened to that business since then?
A lot of changes. In the 1980s, I was there, and you could really see, here comes the internet. And with that, here comes the total change in the distribution systems and purchasing and buying. And so I left in 91, 92, and the businesses and industries are still very active, not expansive. The apparel building folded into the World Trade Center building. But we're still in all these industries, and really, you're serving mom and pop shops much more than the larger stores.
Yeah. Right. So smaller tenants, clients,
small tenants, retail,
that type of thing. But at that point, and again, you had been in the family business, so to speak, but then you kind of said, "Hey, hold it! I want to go out on my own." And in fact, early on, you had said, joining your dad's firm, there was a fear that in part you were motivated by fear.
Yeah, sure. I think fear is a fabulous motivator.
I agree.
And I was scared. Can I do it? Can I rise to the occasion? Can I be successful? All of those questions. And when I left the Market Center, I'd started a travel agency when I was there. And so when I left, I took that business and just said, okay, now I'm not in real estate, and I'm going to see, can I make this business work?
I'm going to make my mark in this.
Yeah. And then finally that happened. I was fortunate that worked. And that's when Henry and I started building normal real estate and office and multifamily. And once we got that first office building and it worked, I thought, I'm not scared anymore. So now what?
Yeah.
So then you have to say, I've got to have purpose.
But
right?
talk about that travel
Yeah,
business, because it became the largest
Yeah.
regional travel agency in
Southwest.
this area of the country. So very successful, but again, a very different business than real estate.
Well, first off, it was a great deal of fun. It was business travel, and then convention travel, and then we bought
I think one of my old companies actually used
Wyndham
Jade. Yes.
Oh, good. And then we had a cruise travel agency for a while, and a student one for summer travel for a bit. But it's a business where we came in and said we've got to have the resources and the capabilities of an American Express or a big travel company.
Sure.
So get the setup in place. So now, obviously go out and get the clients. And we bought a couple of businesses that did that. But on the corporate convention side, it was really just, again, making the sales calls.
And how long did you run this? Just from the audience perspective.
I owned that business for 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
It was not a business that I was ever cash flowing in a way that you said, I'm pulling money out of it.
Sure.
The money was made on the sale.
Got it.
Now, you had met Henry, you got married, but then you were both with Trammell Crow, so he left
Right.
the firm,
Right.
then kind of went from the wholesale over to the land side.
Right. He went from warehousing to land.
So he kind of started that while you were at the travel agency.
Yeah.
And then it really was seeing those lands, seeing those opportunities that moved you back into real estate?
Yeah, he started it actually when I was at the Market Center. When I was at the Market Center, we got married about a year after I came back. And at some point, we had the real estate drought of the 90s. And at some point, I just said, I want to get into mainstream real estate and do an office building. So Henry's, was very cautious. And so, just copy what everybody else is doing. Anyway, but nobody had built any office buildings in quite some time. And so we were a great location, Bush and the Tollway. So we started that, and then I jumped in and did the same thing with multifamily.
You talked about the relationship of your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Now, you and Henry, it's a very different relationship in the sense that, and again, marriages are tough in any scenario, but you've not only got the marriage, but now you are business partners working through it. Talk a little bit about kind of the mindset going into that, concern over all of a sudden, not just kind of the home side, but now we're going to be business partners too, and how that's played out over the years. I guess, how have you two complemented each other?
It's funny. When I left the Market Center, we moved into the office together. I thought, okay, this is the wife coming into the office. I am not going to go down to his office. I'm not going to impose myself on him. And then all of a sudden he's coming by. But, I think it's worked wonderfully because I respect him so much. And then I also know the relationship's more important than the business deal, as does he, right? We both feel the same kind of thing. So then it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Now we disagree, fine. There's some wonderful deals. He will miss a good deal, and I would do a bad deal.
Oh.
So he's brakes on me. Anyway, so we've missed some good deals and avoided some bad deals.
That's terrific. So you've gotten into the real estate business with Henry then, but you've taken a very different approach than your dad did. Your dad tended to be more of the merchant builder,
right?
Build, sell. You've taken, really throughout your entire career in real estate development, you've taken a different view of kind of a hold and let it play out, so to speak.
I felt that it's important to have a strong balance sheet. I didn't start off with one. And I feel like you want liquidity, but if you come in with a strong balance sheet, a bank is paying much more attention to you than if you come in with a lot of cash. So and everything that we've done in our kids' names. So we're doing a platform for them for their lives, and so then we still will sell things.
And that was the intent on day one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, Dad did that in many ways for us.
Yeah.
And he cared about having an evergreen company, a company that would live on forever.
Yeah.
I care more about having great kids have a platform for great lives and let them take where that might go.
Yeah.
Then all the kids are involved now.
Yeah.
Or
Three out of four.
3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some of the land and acquisitions. So think of Austin Ranch. I mean, you've almost got 1,700, 1,900 acres that you all acquired over time. Tell us why there at that time in the Colony, kind of Louisville area. What struck you as the place to be?
Well, all of these are questions that are Henry's to answer because he does all the raw land. But he's always just said, you go from Central to Stemmons, go north. And he wanted to be in the place where the tsunami of growth would wash over you. And that's really what he continues to do. And Austin Ranch was perfectly placed, obviously next to Legacy, and rolling hills, thus the name. And it's just a really beautiful property.
Yeah.
But that's pretty unusual in the sense that you've got 2 almost 2,000 acre parcels that you've done master community.
Sure.
Several others, we'll call them 200 to 400, 500 acres. That's an unusual position to be in, especially in a market like Dallas that's had as much success as it has in the last several decades.
No, I mean, this is totally a tribute to Henry. And we've got the same again coming up in McKinney. So either kids, grandkids, or somebody, or we'll be out there delivering into it. But it's thrilling. So he'll buy the land. Either one, both of us go in to get the zoning and try to do that as early as you can, get entitlements, and then wait till the time's right.
But you've taken the viewpoint as a company that you're going to take full development. And what I mean by that is you're going to deal with office, multifamily, industrial, et cetera, on these large tracts of land. A lot of developers, especially land developers, then start parceling it out. I'll sell it off to an industrial person, I'll send it off to retail, et cetera, those sorts of things. But you've taken the position that you want to be control of the community. Talk a little bit about that thought process and what it's giving you in terms of independence to develop those.
Well, there's 2 different aspects to it. On a large development, the first thing you do impacts everything else, as does the second, as does the third. Creating a master plan that is really great for the public, if it's parks, trails, that's hugely critical. And so we come in with these master plans. Of course, they change, but we try very hard to make something be a place of merit and worth, and that will attract others. And then when you jump into the development itself, you make much more money developing than selling land. And the area that we've sold land in historically has been for single family. But now I think we're going to start to move into saying, let's just do that as well.
Oh, wow.
That's really because our kids can do everything else now.
Because that's one of the areas that you said early on you weren't going to do was the single family.
Right.
But now you're moving into that too.
Yeah, well, but because the kids, we've done the multifamily, the bill, and my kids are all in their 40s and they can do anything. So now I've got to go reinvent myself. So that's why I'm focused on that.
And for the most part, again, unlike a lot of real estate, you don't have partners. You kind of done it on your own, so to speak, which I think begs 2 questions. One is, how did you go ahead then, large parcels of land, development costs, that sort of thing. How did you finance that? How did you be able to acquire the various parcels, pull those together? And then even later on than that, how did you come in with kind of all the skill sets to try to develop these pieces in doing a lot of different things?
So on buying the land in the beginning, we did have partners. And Henry had associates from business school and had several foreign investors. So that's how we did it in the beginning. We've never put debt on land because that'll eat at you. And so some of these partners stayed in over time and developed with us, but most of them actually, when it was time to develop, we bought out.
Bought them down.
This is just real estate, so it's the real estate skill set, right? Of just stepping each step through the way of getting your entitlements and the design and financing, and we had team members in here. And
You mentioned a moment ago, too, that you go at it on the front end by putting a lot of very attractive amenities in place before you ever see a dollar of revenue come in place. Talk about that, because, again, a little bit different. And some of those amenities have really kind of put those developments on a different plane.
Well, the Cypress Waters one is really the most amenity rich. And we started with a 700-acre lake, which we shrank to a 320-acre lake. But we've got a 6-mile trail system around it. It's a sound stage on the water. We've become an events company, and so we're programming from April to October, outdoors. Then we put the pickleball courts and all out there. And I think it's really inherent upon us. We're right now trying to say, what is the next amenity that we can do? Because you've got in a development that large, you need new, exciting things to keep coming. And but they need to be meaningful.
Do you feel like it's giving you a leg up in attracting tenants?
Oh, of course. When a corporation wants to office someplace, they want to come someplace where they don't have to be putting all this on.
Sure.
And we've got a dog park right outside their front door, the playgrounds, the apartments, you can live across the street, a dozen restaurants. We want to be the place where it's really easy for them to hire employees.
Got it. Yeah.
You've been a large multi-family developer, 8,500 to 9,000 units, those sorts of things. You made an interesting comment, though. At one point, though, you said, well, Henry wanted to kind of imitate the other folks out there, and clearly the Trammell Crow Company has done a lot of multifamily, the traditional garden style and that sort of thing. You kind of stepped in at this point and said, no, and I thought it was a great description. We're going to take the complex out of the apartments.
Yeah.
Talk about that and what you've tried to do on apartments, because I think most people think of multifamily as being, and I saw the downside of it from a public standpoint, a lot of multifamilies that grew to be 30, 40 years old and became major issues. Yeah. But you haven't done that. Those are not the traditional garden style. You've gone at it a different way.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun. Our first development, we did exactly what you said. Our tagline was apartments without the complex. And we just wanted to shatter the paradigm of one building set in irregular ways around a piece of property. We wanted all the homes on the streets to have front doors and patios. We wanted all the homes on the interior side to be looking at a park. We wanted this to be a lovely place. Mm-hmm. We wanted the elevations to be different. So this building's different than the one next door. Mm-hmm. We wanted to, create a place and have it feel like it's grown up over time. Even today, when we're doing the larger wrap buildings, as you move around the block, we'll be giving different facades. Exterior balconies or bay windows or brick colors, all the changes. And I think it just lends both charm but longevity. I think these will age really nicely. And tons of brick, get into high quality materials.
So it's cost you both in terms of materials and in density. Mm-hmm. Has it given you higher rents and a different clientele?
It really hasn't cost us in density. It's cost us in materials for sure. And yes, I think that we have a faster lease up as a regard to it. And then our rents are just above our competitors. We're in the market. We're not standing out in a remarkable way. And we try to do the same kind of thing with the club rooms and the other amenities. Just knock them out a little bit nicer.
So let's go downtown. You built One Arts Plaza, first office building in the CBD in nearly 2 decades.
Yeah, it's 18 years.
Pretty close to 2 decades. What led you down there? And it was land that your family had held for quite a period of time.
Yeah. It's land that Dad had, and he'd put it in my name, so there we go. I learned that Jim Keyes at 7-Eleven was interested in that location as a headquarters. And, once I heard that, it was like a little dog grabbing the bottom of your pants. I thought, we're going to make this work. And, he was also looking at suburban locations. So we had to compete with suburban, not urban rent. So then we said, oh, well, let's add some retail. We said, well, let's add some condos. Let's do everything we can to make this work. And anyway.
And that's the way you made the office economics work, is by having all these other pieces of property kind of contribute into it.
And what was attractive about that part of downtown at the time?
Well, the Arts District, and we're the terminus of the Arts District, and you have open views forever on, all of these Starchitect buildings that are really quite stunning. And we did the exact floor plate that they wanted, which is 38,000 square feet. So it was a large floor plate for downtown, and really efficient, for their company.
Fascinating.
So where does downtown go?
Right now, it's a fascinating trend that we're caught in, like many other cities over time. But Dallas has 34 million square feet of downtown office space and 9 million square feet of vacancy. And it's mostly located on the southern portion. We've had like 4 buildings convert to multifamily thus far, and others, 3 or 4 more announced right now. Uptown has had tremendously strong growth. So Dallas has always moved from that. Our downtown started from the southwest corner and has always been moving northeast. So I think a tremendous amount of things need to happen in downtown. The safety situation on the homelessness is being addressed by the city and needs to continue to have a very strong.
Do you see improvements to this point?
In our neighborhood, in the Arts District, we have not many problems at all. So I'm not immersed in it, but I hear about improvements because it's really in the southern portion of the city. I happen to be a believer that we've got to have a significant magnet on the south side of downtown to enrich that zone. So I'm a supporter of tear down City Hall and come in with whatever is a vibrant development that will bring energy to that whole end of the city. And then simultaneously, in the Arts District, we've started meeting to saying, what are we as developers going to do to make this be a destination? We've got fabulous buildings there, but performing arts is nighttime.
Right.
Visual arts might be weekend. We need to make it be a great place at daytime. So that's our next job.
I want to drill down to both those. So let's parcel those out. You mentioned the idea of taking down City Hall. In fairness, I've been an advocate of that too, and written quite a bit about that. It seems that the opponents of that largely come up and say, hey, hold it, you've got an historical building, IMP, et cetera. You've been in real estate and you've done some iconic things in real estate. What do you say to those people?
Historic and non-functional are 2 words that would go together there. And I think non-functional beats out historic.
I had an office there for 4 years. I think that's a very apt description, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So
what would you like to see? Talk about that kind of vibrant entertainment district.
I think there's a ton you could do. I mean, you could do a big multifamily community, and obviously that attracts retail and grocers, and we already have a good one started with the whole farmers market zone. It's quite nice. So if you brought thousands of people living there, instantly that changes the library and these other buildings. There's talk of a stadium. Right. If you had great retail around that, it's a destination at nighttime. I think there are a lot of things you could do in that area, but they need to be intensely vibrant. A data center wouldn't work.
So let's move, and then I'm going to try to pull it all together too, to the Arts District. So as you said, you've organized a group of owners in that area to kind of think about the Arts District, what's next. What's your vision for the Arts District?
Well, I think the buildings there are beautiful. The thing that we lack is destination energy. And it used to be over at Trammell Crow Company. They had great happy hours in the spring. I was young, and you'd go there and see all these business guys. They were great happy hours. That's not too hard to bring back. And someone was even saying, we've got some land next to our building. Put pickleball out there for a use for a while. Let's just do things that give you a reason to come. And I think that pop-up events, pop-up restaurants, I think there are a lot of fun ideas that we can copy from others.
So how do we bring that to fruition, though? Because, again, I think a lot of real estate people don't think of themselves being in events. They think of 4 walls, some land, and a roof. You mentioned earlier, you're in real estate, but you started an events company in large part to kind of get this real estate a little energized.
Yeah. Well, I think in the arts district, it's pretty easy. You can come back to being motivated by fear. If you have fear of failure, you're going to come out and do some pretty brash good things. And anyway, we don't know what's coming our way, but we might as well jump out and get ahead of it. And these things aren't so costly if you look at them in regards to the value of the assets.
Well, we're in value of the investment. I think, and there's clearly some challenges downtown, but I try to get people to focus on there's going to be over the next 5 years, plus or minus, about $10 billion worth of investment. If you kind of look at what's happening, the convention center, what happens, Dallas College, add a couple of things in there. That's an awful lot of money to work with if it was done correct and it tied in the arts district with the southern part, bringing Lamar down, those pieces. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about the integration of pulling all these pieces together. Why?
I think, first off, we're new to thinking about this. And secondly, we are going right to our own issue in our own neighborhood. And people haven't lifted the conversation up to being that big. And we don't have an umbrella leadership that's saying, let's go there.
Well, and I think that's the question is, do we have a city government that's pushing us in the direction to Tom's point, to bring all these pieces together?
I think our city manager would do that. And but right now, I think they're groping with other major concerns. And so it'd be the Downtown Dallas Institute or Downtown Dallas.
Downtown Dallas.
And then the Arts District group is the first group that we're working with. But I think that those will be the entities that will move through in the first instance.
Tough for the city manager to take the leadership position. City manager, she can be very instrumental in pulling it together, the implementation. But the leadership, I think, has got to come just because of the virtue of the city manager position. So we've talked a little bit about the downtown but again, we've talked about your other projects that are literally all over the Metroplex. Talk about how you see, we've had an incredible run really in the time that you've been in real estate. We go back, when you entered real estate, we were the 12th largest metropolitan area. In the space of the next couple of years, before you do a whole lot more down at Cypress Waters, will be the 3rd largest metropolitan area. That's quite a change. I'm not sure we've seen that any place in kind of history of the United States. How do you look at the next 20 years in the regional aspect and where that's going to go?
Well, I think our growth and momentum is going to continue. So if we're 8 million people now, and 35, we might be 12. And 50, we might be, 16 or, So I think the growth in this Metroplex is huge. And it's when you have growth, that's when you have the opportunity to create. And if we own that creation so that we can create developments and communities that are rich and great for the long term, then the whole region gets held in good stead. And I think other developers are working hard to do the exact same thing. So I think we're becoming a more spectacular place due to our developments, but due to the companies that are coming here, the leadership, the nature of the businesses they're bringing. We are a radically different place. And, the world is depopulating. So reproduction rate in America is 1.6. You need 2.1 to stay flat. So there's the first wave of countries that have already hit their peak include North America, China, advanced Asia, and Europe. We've hit our peak in population.
India is actually below replacement too.
Yeah. So we're defying the odds because of immigration, and Texas because of immigration by companies for elsewhere in the country. But even for us, McKinney's closing 3 schools. They hit their top population in 2018 for students. And they're a fast-growing community. They're a great community. So but the nature of what's going on here is going to change.
So what can go wrong? And again, I asked this question because I think you bring a different perspective to it, having done master plan communities and kind of think about all the different things, because a lot of the work that you do is not just putting the building up, but it's thinking about water, infrastructure, all those elements that go into the zoning, but really go into the planning of large communities like that. What can go wrong?
Well, the first thing that's gone wrong is COVID hitting the office market. We would need to be building more offices, want to be, but right now we're not. And we need the momentum and the energy of that. So when will corporations settle down? When will they be ready to make decisions? How will we pull that together? Then the other big concerns are going to be water and power. And with all the data centers coming to West Texas, we've got a great grid, but it's been tested. And so we've got to be able to handle that growth and preserve the grid. And obviously, the same kind of issue with water. And water's getting tight already.
So you've talked about McKinney and what y'all are looking up there. Where else? What's the new hot place outside of McKinney from your perspective in the Metroplex?
Well, again, my husband's just buying, straight up.
Are we getting to Oklahoma yet? Or because we got to be close.
Henry was out looking at land near Sherman and turned around and said 56 miles to Dallas. He's been buying in Denton. But he's the past few years he bought the two corners at Central and 121, the southeast and the southwest. And those can be great developments. You've got to have the right timing. You've got to be able to build office.
And those are a couple hundred acres?
Yeah, 250 each. But those would be high density in contrast to jumping up to Denton or these other areas. For them to be high density, you've got to own the land a long time.
Yeah, got it.
So how has real estate changed? If you think about it, when you came in and where it is today, how has it changed?
And, so many ways. First off, we had things were simpler. I mean, when I was really young in the business, you heard about handshake deals. We're technical now. We have all the processes in place. I think the quality of what we're building today is much more interesting and much more original. They're not the grand buildings of Chase Tower or Crow Center, and those are fantastic. So that quality could easily match and exceed. But I think you've got really good design going on. We're trying to, in our office buildings at Cypress, create Texas architecture for office buildings.
What is that? What's Texas architecture?
I mean, it's pulling our rough stones and our rough steel and brick and bringing something together that really is reminiscent of this state and how we feel about things, and then just applying it to a contemporary facility. We want to create the Texas you wish you were from. We want to be yesterday brought to tomorrow.
Fascinating.
That's just fun.
Yep. As in real estate, you've got to deal with public policy. It seems interesting to look through the country now. And again, you've done an awful lot of multifamily, as well as you mentioned you were getting into single family. You've got areas of the country who have priced themselves out, and Texas has been the great benefactor. New York and San Francisco, there's others too, but they come to mind. Both of those areas now are talking about how do we loosen the regulations surrounding housing as a public policy issue, not necessarily a real estate issue, but a public policy. How do you look at here in North Texas vis-a-vis what's happening in those other areas, and your reaction as someone that has been involved in real estate, that's dealt with all of zoning, regulations, all the permitting, all those sorts of things, with these cities trying to come back, shall we say, to create more housing? Can they pull it off?
I think they're right to try. Even in our own areas, the towns that have the tightest regulations for single-family homes, the starter home has to cost $450,000.
It's not a starter home at that point.
That's right. And these towns were doing this to have integrity in their neighborhoods. I mean, with good purpose, but the ramifications. We need to be able to come in with prefab homes or alternatives that let people have ownership again. And home ownership is incredibly important, not in marriage, families, and birth rates. I mean, this is not just a
Good point.
Real estate point.
Absolutely.
So do you see these, well, I'll take Dallas for example. Do you see Dallas continue to move in the right direction from a regulation perspective? Do you see the Metroplex still being a place where it's business friendly in the next, call it 15, 20 years?
Absolutely. And I think the state is too. I think the state has a huge influence on the cities. In some ways, the cities don't like. I mean, in quite a few in real estate, they've come in and said, you can't tell the developer what building materials to use. Now, any office land in cities over 150,000 population as of 2020, any office land can be used for multifamily. It's more particular than that, but the cities don't like that,
right.
And understandably. And yet, the state is pushing us to be affordable and to not let us get pushed into one of these other circumstances with all these regulations. So I and obviously the benefit of corporate growth in this Metroplex helps everybody's tax base.
Well, I think that's one thing I want to hit on too is you've talked about office for a few minutes here. How do we get office back? How do you get the energy back to make decisions for corporations to say, hey, I'm going to jump in with someone like you and build a build-to-suit that's 450,000 square feet.
The federal government needs to settle down, calm down a little bit, and give corporations really clarity as to the world in which they're living in. Obviously, you can talk tariffs, but there's other aspects to the uncertainties there. So I think that's the most significant force that's keeping us disrupted. Right when Trump got elected, before he even took office leasing went right up.
Right.
Everybody was enthused. And then all of these decisions that are throwing people into a whirlwind have just stopped it again.
What do you think about the national economy over the next year or two?
I think we're struggling. We're struggling because the tariffs are I think they're costing us money. They'll get some payback in some areas, but I think they're a net cost. The lowering of the taxes, of which I'm totally grateful, are obviously going to be putting a strain on us. So I think the actions that the government's taking right now are putting more strains on the economy than benefits. Will we come through this on the other side and feel differently? I'm not too sure.
So if you look at some of the legislation, e.g. Big Beautiful Bill, those sorts of things, does that help real estate, hurt it, or is it a non-factor?
The thing that helped was the taxes. And if interest rates ever drop down, those are the big factors for us.
Are interest rates too high now?
Yeah. And we had a 12-year run that ended with COVID.
Basically zero.
Yeah, free money.
And the amount of equity we have to put into any development now is 2.5 times as what it was then. And so we don't have the cash to build as much.
Just to bring your debt service down.
Yeah, just to get the loan. Yeah, I mean, we could get a 70% loan then, we can get a 60% today.
Sure.
But the cost of the interest makes it much more expensive.
Again, you've done a lot of housing, deal with clients, you're out there in the field and that sort of thing. Have we made it so expensive that we've bifurcated the economy? We've got the people that can afford things, but then you look at what happened in New York, that was largely a lot of young people saying, I'm out of the economy. I can't afford it, and I don't think I've got the future that my parents had.
Yeah, I know. I think nationally that's absolutely the case. So it's the case here too. I think 40% of the households do not have savings. Again, young men don't have the capacity to feel confident that they can pay for a home, pay for childcare. Apparently, it costs $312,000 to raise a child now with public systems. So that's and then you've got your housing cost and college debt. So I think that we're a totally stressed economy in that way, and many people are saying, "Fine, I'm okay with just having a life in rental, not ownership."
But is that good for the country?
Yeah, I think ownership's important.
So what would you do to fix some of these things? What would be kind of your wish list of trying to get these things moving again?
It is super hard. If you just go to the marriage rate, the marriage rate is strong in the Amish, the Mormons, Orthodox Jews. It is weakest in Hindus and Buddhists. Even the Abraham religions is all are coming down. The only area that has rapid growth in the world is sub-Saharan Africa. And that's because it's agriculture and poverty. When we were all farmers, we needed to have kids.
Hey, the people.
They were our farmhands, and they got to work pretty young. Now, we don't need to have children. It takes a lot to raise a child. They've got to go to a long education, and they're not going to be productive until their 20s. The whole dynamic of this is so totally different. I'm explaining the problem. I didn't give you one solution.
You're good.
But I think that's what we're swimming against.
But what you can address is what Billingsley Company is doing. So let's kind of
That's
push
easier.
that out a little bit. Again, some really interesting projects. We talked about the apartments without the complex. You've talked about some of the amenities, those sorts of things. If we think about the projects that are going to be done, and I think I read something that you don't have any intention of retiring soon, so you're going to be at least involved.
Yeah.
How are your projects going to look different a decade from now than what they've done? What are, with all the things that we've talked about, changing on the national economic side, on public policy, those sorts of things, where do you really see that you're going to have to change to be as successful as you have been?
I think part of the formula stays in place, but the way it expresses itself has to be different.
Now, when you say formula, you're saying largely outside of the land, no partners, no debt. We're going to do master plan communities for the most part. We're going to do all the different elements, different functions, different types of properties. Is that right?
That's right. But at Cypress Waters, for instance, we're zoned to be able to build 10,000 apartments. To do that, we have to keep changing what this neighborhood looks like, what it feels like. I can have one architectural style over here. This has to complement it but be different. So the creativity in what we're doing needs to change. We haven't done 55 plus. We can bring that into the mix. We are starting a community of 87 built-to-rent homes. So this is our first step into that zone. And I think each time we do it, we want to say, how do we, make this be a wonderful home forever? And so there are new ways to be thinking about living. And
smaller units?
Sure. On the built-to-rent, there are a lot of built-to-rent communities around. Many of them are very formulaic, and someone does get an independent home, but it is not a pleasant neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so we're fortunately in an area where we think people can pay a little bit more than those and have, great two-story homes, two, 3, 4 bedrooms, parks and amenities around. So anyway, we're putting our stepping into that market, and we'll see.
How do you get good people? You need to bring good people in. We talked about your family. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But you need to bring good people in. What do you look for in somebody coming in to be part of the Billingsley Company?
Well, I look for people who are independent and want to go accomplish their goals and have a great skill set. People talk about management. I'm not a manager. I don't want to be managed, and I don't think anybody else really wants to. So I want leaders that we can tag team with. We agree on where we're going, and we have huge respect for each other.
Can you find those people as easily today as you used to?
Oh, I'm sure. There are great people around. We've had a pretty solid team for a while, so I'm not out there all the time in the market, but yeah.
And talk about your culture. I mean, your website's pretty amusing if you're a viewer, because I think there's 3 or 4 dogs, and one of the dogs has pearls, and you've got
the 3 dogs have corporate titles, which I thought was great. As being a dog person, I got to tell you,
I love it too.
I love that. I thought you go through the website. If anybody hasn't, they need to do it. It is. Let's see. We've got a chief greeting officer.
Morale officer.
We've got a chief morale officer, and then
I don't know what the third one is.
Attention getter. It's a chief attention getter or something like that.
Well, talk about that culture. Talk about what y'all have built and instilled to create the fun, at least from the website perspective, that y'all have.
Well, when we first brought a dog into the office, I thought, oh, my parents never would have done this. I am so sorry. And it really helps change the culture. Everybody loves the dog.
Now, your picture, you're sitting with the dog.
Yeah. Well, that's Shadow.
Yeah.
But Shadow comes to work every day. But if I don't cross people in accounting often, I see him with the dog. We see each other. We talk. Yeah. I mean, it just makes us all human.
Yeah.
And so
it's a great way to put it. That's
so
a terrific
fun.
way to put it, Lucy.
So it's fun.
That's great.
That's neat. That's fun. Okay. So you're not going to retire.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing? You've got 4 kids. 3 of them are actively engaged in the business.
Yeah.
Partners lead key pieces to it.
Yeah.
So what's your role in Henry's going forward?
I think I've known for years I need to reinvent myself. And I've not done a great job of doing it. But anything the kids can do, I want them to go do it, right? Of course. So right now, I am jumping into this single family to say, okay, and I like starting something new. I prefer that than trying to be a manager. And so I'm going to go focus on that. The build to rent 55 plus will be sort of my zones to look at. And then I think I'm trying to figure out what are other aspects outside of business that I might be able to have a contribution. And we've all done that over time, right? Yeah. But as I'm 72, this is a great age to be, because, people answer your phone call. It didn't used to happen, right? And so
I can't imagine anybody not answering your phone call. We'll let that go by.
I can give you a lot. But anyway, it's exciting to be able to say, how can I use whatever platform I've been given to have relevance? Yeah. And I don't have it sorted through. Okay. This little downtown arts district is part of that.
Mm-hmm. You threw 2 things in there, so let's, again, deal with both of them. The single family is interesting because it is a part of the business that you shied away from. In fact, you've said in previous years, we do everything, but we're not going to do single family. Now you're getting into single family. There are a lot of single family builders out there.
Right.
There are big companies, there's individuals, and everything in between. What are you going to do that's different in single family?
I think we've done one single family development before, 2 actually, and what we did was not build the homes ourselves, but we did everything on the planning and created standards.
So did the community then merchant build it?
Yes. But for the builders who came in, we had lots of requirements, front yard requirements, landscaping, and then architectural requirements. We'd let 5 different architectural styles. You had to submit for each different style. You couldn't have any one be next to the other. We wanted to create a nice neighborhood that felt like it came up again over time.
But so you expect to do all of the design work, or practically all the design work, and then literally have somebody just come in and be the construction manager.
They would submit the designs, and we'd approve it. So that is their home that they're designing.
Any thoughts on how you want your designs to be different than any of the myriad single-family communities in North Texas?
Yeah, of course. You want it to be true to whatever architectural style you're representing. So if you're Southern, we want it to look Southern. If you're Tudor, we want it to be the real Tudor that came from England, not the Tudor that's named Tudor in Texas. If you're,
Texas Tudor.
Yeah, that's right. We just need the historical architectural styles to show through.
Okay. In every conversation I've had with you, to the second point, you say it in your website, you talk about a corporate responsibility to the community, that companies, individuals have been successful, they have obligations to the community. And you clearly have done that. You talked about some of your involvement in leading the arts district, think about where that goes. But if I look across this entire community, it is difficult not to see Lucy Billingsley and the Billingsley Company having a role that ranges from medicine to arts to everything else in between. Talk about your philosophy, but then also talk about what really motivates you throughout this community to get involved more importantly, your time, but also your monetary resources behind it?
I think we want to say, where's the community going and what is going to make this be a rich place? And there are obviously many elements to that. I think we need to look at what are the future demographics of the Metroplex. Mm-hmm. Are there underserved people that need to be educated and brought in and lifted in leadership skills? I think there are. And I think we need to be offering more of those opportunities to build up the strength of the population. Arts enrich our lives. The medical institutions are critical for any major metroplex. But my engagement in those things has been supportive, not poignant. And so my focus more recently and has been to focus on girls and female education. We've been trying to get international exposure to underprivileged girls in high school to try to open up their eyes, supporting students at TWU to get them, their careers launched, education launched. So that's been where I've been tiptoeing around recently.
So where do you want to go with those?
I really think what we need more than anything is female, Hispanic, and African American leadership training. So I have not gotten into that. Then,
what kind of leadership training? More than just education?
Yeah. Work skill set, leadership. But with the international exposure, I love giving that to these students. I have not seen one that did not do something that was provocative. And I don't want us to shrink and become Texas-focused. I want us to be a part of the world. And I want these brilliant young girls to know that. And so the only requirement we have is that they do something that is not a tour, that they're engaged on education or internship, some international exposure, and not to the country of their origin. Go someplace else.
So I want to take a little bit different spin on that because I think it's a great answer. You were a female in corporate America. You've got children, one who's a daughter, Lucy, who's at the Billingsley company. What would be your message to a younger audience that's listening to this that's female, that's trying to figure out like, hey, can I do a corporate America and have a family and kind of do it all?
Or to be an entrepreneur.
Or to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, you've got to believe in yourself, right?
Sure.
You've got to be willing to take some risks. But in taking risks, if you do your homework well enough, it's not much of a risk. So I think these risks can be super controlled and managed. And then it's back to, it's all up to you. And just like Dad said, go for it. And don't think less of yourself. I feel like we are all our own billboards. And if I emanate confidence, you're going to say, oh, I trust her. Mm-hmm. But if I'm insecure, you're not going to trust me.
Right.
And so I think we need to believe in ourselves.
But in those segments you talked about, Latino especially, but other ones that, building that confidence is difficult at the individual level. In some cases, the family hasn't been supportive of that, of young women, young girls and young women. How do you take that leadership training and start building that confidence?
Well, I haven't launched this leadership training, so TWU, would be
Sounds
the best
like
example.
You're going to be involved, though.
And so I think it is an ongoing. It is a process. It's not something that you can read a book and believe in yourself. And
exactly.
Other people have to give it to you.
Right.
I mean, my parents just gave it to me, and so. You've got to see. And you succeed because people want you to succeed, right? We don't succeed all on our own. And so those relationships with others, I think, are vital to that.
Last question here from me. What do you want your legacy to be when you look back? You got the leadership award from the Dykes Leadership Award from TWU in 2023, and obviously a great leader. But leadership and legacy, in my view, are kind of two different things. What do you want your legacy to be?
That my kids go forth and do great things. It's not about me,
I will tell you, Lucy, with all of the successes that she has had, and we've gone through a lot of them, community, business, individual business as an entrepreneur, starting businesses, the contributions he made to her family, is one of the more humble leaders, which unfortunately I don't think there's nearly enough humility in our leaders today. When I first approached Lucy to join us today, her reaction was, I don't want to be a negative on the podcast. And I wrote her back and said, I'm worried about a lot of things. That is not one of them. Lucy, it is terrific having you here. We appreciate it. As we've gone through, I think the other part of the answer to Kyle's question was to have good models for young women. And I can't think of a better one than you, Lucy, of what you've accomplished and the way that you have done it, the character that you've put into it, the humility. It is always a pleasure to work with you. Lucy would come down and talk to me when I was down at City Hall about some of her projects. I saw her in the community leading different efforts, much that she hasn't mentioned today. But it was always a pleasure to be with her because she was straight to the point, she was honest, she was direct, and it was a way that you could actually get something done, and her life shows that.
Well, you all are both very generous, and all we want to do is just one more time. Let's do it again.
Yes.
So
My money's on you for one more time.
Thanks,
you. Lucy.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank Kyle.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Again, today's episode is sponsored by Clay Cooley Automotive, a family-owned, family-operated automotive company serving the local DFW Metroplex for over 22 years.